Welcome back to the Flex Diet Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike T. Nelson. On this podcast, we talk about all things to increase your performance in the gym, add muscle, better body composition, all without destroying your health in the process. Today on the program, I'm super excited. We've got Tasha Wolf Whelan, and she is talking all about just life of a trainer and all the wonderful tips that she has learned as a trainer of many years. You've probably seen some of her writing on T Nation. She's also an educator for pain-free training, and she's also a head strength and conditioning coach and manager. Just really great stuff. Make sure to check out her Instagram, which is ironwolf03, and we'll put links to all of her great stuff. And I wanted to pick her brain about everything from programming to exercise variations to just all the wealth of knowledge that she has accumulated over many years of education herself, and then also being in the trenches and doing the work on a daily basis, both on herself as a competitive lifter and then also coaching all the athletes that she works with. Also wanted to let you know that the Flex Diet certification will open again. Right now, it's targeting for around the middle part of January. I don't have an exact date yet. I've got a couple other things coming up that may change that. But January 2024 is when it's planned to open again. You can get all the information right away via on my newsletter. Go to miketnelson.com/podcast. Not only can you see all the podcasts that I've been on for guest appearances, scroll down and you'll be able to hop on to the newsletter. A lot of times I have early bonuses and we'll announce other things to the newsletter people only. So you want to check that out, go to miketnelson.com/podcast, scroll down, and you can hop on to the daily newsletter for free. So as soon as I have the exact date for the Flex Diet Cert, I will get that sent out to you. Also, I have another really cool project that I'm working on that will be announced very soon. That'll be out around the end of January also. So enjoy this podcast here with Tasha Wolf. Anything you're super passionate about right now?
Right now, I'm just a passionate person. So
yeah, I picked up on
everything.
That.
I'm passionate about coaching. I'm passionate about training myself. I'm passionate about competing and passionate. The most thing that I'm passionate about, though, is truly helping other people get to where they want to go, and not even necessarily in a physical transformation at all. As a manager, I help my team get to their goals, whatever that is, career-wise or personally. And that's what I really am passionate about the most, is really helping someone get to their ultimate goal, whatever that looks like for them. So I enjoy doing that the most. Yeah.
Do you find, I should ask you, like, how long have you been training? I assume it's quite a while.
Yeah,
I mean, as a compliment, not a negative.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I know. Shoot, are my white hairs coming out there?
No.
That's cool. I've been a coach for 20 years, 21 years now. So yeah, I've been in it for a while. I've only been a pretty darn decent coach for probably a decade. Half the time I was trying to figure it out. And
oh yeah,
certainly a horrible coach for a long time because I just didn't know anything and didn't have the experience. But after 20 years, I'm still learning and still trying to figure things out, but I certainly know a lot more and I have a lot more confidence in doing what I do. So
yeah. Have you found the longer you do it, I don't want to say like results don't matter, but you understand that it's a process, and that maybe it's because you have enough experience actually hitting a goal and initially thinking everything will be different. Like for me, like getting squashed by the bar in high school and even my first year of college with no weight on it. Mm-hmm. I thought once I bench 225, that's amazing, right? Or once I deadlift 405, I get to put 4 plates on a side because my first deadlift was 95 pounds. Oh, I've made it then. And
yep.
you hit these minor goals, which are big goals for you at the time. And then you realize, oh, nothing really changed a whole lot.
Exactly. The transformation really doesn't come from the end result. It comes from the journey and the process of doing it. I used to be hyper focused on getting someone to that end result. And that's the only thing I could focus on. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it wasn't getting them there. And I just wasn't successful with that mindset on it. So then I took a different mindset with it. And even my conversations with clients have changed too, where I would allow them to focus on that goal, that end result. And it really was just setting everyone up, me as a coach and them as a client, for letdown and disappointment, because we would have this idea like, yeah, we can get there in 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it may be. And that just really wasn't realistic, because life happens and you have to be flexible in your approach and change things, because certain things in life just occur out of your control. And yeah, you can't really focus on a specific date to get things done, or a specific goal. It's that process of getting there, because things change throughout that journey. Yeah.
How do you communicate that to your clients? Because I think it's an interesting double-edged sword in the business, because we know that clients are literally paying us a lot of money to get them a result.
Yes,
And
they are.
obviously that's part of what you're going to do. But when you've been in it for decades, you realize that's not the only benefit. But you can also remember when you first started, I was like the only benefit I ever thought about.
Absolutely. But the whole thing is like a big puzzle piece, and everything has to align and be just right for it to come out the way that you're expecting it to be. So you have to navigate all these little puzzle pieces to fit it in its entirety in such a way that is really hard to accomplish, like sleep quality, right? Like, you're going to have bad nights of sleep sometimes, and that's going to affect your training. And then ultimately that goal too might get pushed a little bit further out. So it's one of those conversations that can be very tricky, because everyone just wants their result. Like most people do. They don't really want the process and the journey,
Right.
Right? No one really does want that. But you have to have those conversations that say things are going to work out when everything aligns how it's supposed to align to get to you that goal. And that's where it can be really tricky, because again, people have this expectation that if they're working with a trainer, then they should have that result on X date. But they don't really think about all that fluctuation that happens within that time frame too, of again, bad night's sleep, eating out, missing a session, getting injured. All that stuff is going to then change that date or that outcome or the goal or how it's going to look in their mind. So it can be very tricky, because that's the expectations of having a coach is, I hired you to get me to this spot on this date for my wedding or whatever it may be, and I'm not 100% there. So it can be very tricky, but it's life experiences too. Again, I've been in the game for a while, so I can be like, yeah, I've been there too. And I will just share my stories and my experiences, and even with other clients, and having those conversations regularly really does help them. It's okay. I see what you're focusing on is that end result, but think about all these little goals, these little micro goals that you've hit along the way. So when we break things down and focus on little mini goals throughout it and show the progression and where they've been, then that actually helps them change their mind too. Because people, again, will look at the scale and be like, I gained weight, or I didn't lose weight this week. How do you feel this week though? Do you feel a little bit stronger? Yes, I do. Do you feel like you fit in your clothes a little bit better? Yeah, I do. Okay, so then we have to focus on different matrix of that too, and different areas, so they don't just hyper focus on that end result, because it really is all these different wins that they aren't realizing or recognizing throughout that journey. So you focus on the little wins, and then helps them change their mindset on that.
Yeah, and it's never a linear process. Like my running joke is that other than maybe heart rate during exercise, I don't know of anything else during physiology that's actually linear. But like humans are just programmed to think linear. And I've looked at hundreds, maybe thousands of just weight loss, just on scale weight, where you get on the scale every day and you see the chart and the trend's going down, but it's always up and down. There's this little bit of variability. I actually find when that variability goes away, every time they get stuck. Like if they get on the scale and it's exactly 201.1 pounds, 201.2, 201.0, like they're stuck at that point, versus the little bit of up and down. I actually use that as a marker now to see where they're at.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's actually a really good point and something that is very valuable to let them know too. Because again, people get freaked out over that. They see the scale not moving or moving up, and it's okay if it goes up, even when you're in a weight loss phase or program. The scale might go up a little bit, and that's okay because again, nothing is linear, like you said, and there's going to be fluctuations depending on time of day that you're weighing in, how much water you had, what you had to eat, sodium levels. There's so much that goes into it. So those fluctuations are normal and you want to see that. And that's okay because it might be high, that might drop a little bit lower because of that fluctuation. Yeah, different things to focus on.
Yeah, I've even, when people are stuck, sometimes I've actually added more calories on purpose and their weight will go up a little bit and then it'll drop like 2 pounds,
Exactly.
which really freaks clients out. And they're like, what? You want me to eat more calories? I'm trying to lose weight and you're telling me to take one day and eat more calories. I'm like, I'm not saying go face first into 4 birthday cakes,
Right.
but have some more white rice, have a sweet potato at dinner, like just do something that's higher. And then, yeah, your weight might go up a little bit, as much as we try to explain the physiology of it. And then a day or two later, boom, it like goes back down again. I'm like, oh, that's so crazy.
I legitimately had this conversation in this whole situation just the other day with someone. I was like, hey, I'm going to have you eat some more. I told them that. They're like, whoa, but I'm trying to lose.
Yeah.
Why would you tell me to eat more? And it was the same thing. I was like, have a sweet potato, something like that. And I'm like, have a little bit more rice or whatever, or add rice in something. And they were just so freaked out about it. I'm like, if you just trust me and just do just a little bit, not a lot of it, not have like cups of this and just go until you can't eat anymore, but a little bit more because you need to fuel your body. Your body's clearly in need of more nutrients, more food, fuel, whatever it may be. And then they dropped weight 2 days later and they're now trending downward again. And so you show someone that if they do it right, then they're going to see a positive effect from that.
Yeah. The other analogy I use since I live in Minnesota is if you've ever tried to push a car out of the ditch, like you can't just push on it, right? You have to rock the car forward and back and forward and back. So I try to explain them that you're clearly stuck. Like your weight's not going up, it's not going down. So we want to try to generate some momentum, and it's easier to generate momentum by going up a little bit to go back down.
Yes.
And they're like, I don't know, whatever. And then when it actually works, they're like, oh, that does work.
I actually really like that analogy. Yeah. I tell people it's like an oscillation. You move a little bit forward, a little bit back, then you move a little bit more forward, a little bit back, and it just, again, that teeter-totter, but each time you're getting further along. Yeah.
Do you find that with your clients and your own training? Like the longer I've been doing it, I find that some of my biggest PRs were a couple days or sometimes a week after a really crappy performance. Not horrible, but not anywhere close to even what it was that 4-week average. Like I was just looking at some stuff on my actual deadlift the other day, and the last time I had a PR on it, my working weight, literally 4 days before that PR was like 30 pounds off what my PR was.
Okay, yeah.
And initially on that day, I remember having a note scribbled down going, this sucks. And I'm so far off even my normal working weight. And then 4 days later, I hit like an all-time PR.
Yeah, I actually that happened to me this week with that overhead press. I was like stalled out on some lifts. I'm like struggling, like, oh my gosh, I think I need a deload or something. Like, my body is just like running down or something. And then I like hit all these PRs like a few days later. I'm like, all right, there we go. So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's very
Any thoughts on why that happens or any? Because it's also it's frustrating for me, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I know it's even more frustrating for clients who are new. Granted, I don't see that degree of variability when they're new, but you still see it. And how do you get people through that? Because if they're doing everything else, you can see their general trends, and it's usually just one particular lift. It's not like they were out at the bar every night doing benders and sleeping 4 hours a night. Then you know like what's going on. It's usually 1 or 2 lifts where like everything else is moving in the right direction.
I usually will switch out the movement when we start seeing that, and I'll get them exposed to something a little bit newer or some kind of different stimulus, something that's a little bit more exciting or something that we may not have really tested on. So let's just, for example, let's say that we're focusing on a max effort and they are not hit. They're like, oh my gosh, I was stronger last week. I was stronger 2 weeks ago. And they were just struggling to hit the same weight. And even though on our program, we're supposed to exceed that.
Right.
So I might actually just switch it up. I'm like, okay, you know what? We're going to actually do a little bit more dynamic movement, more power-based stuff. So we're going to go a little bit faster, a little bit more explosive. So new stimulus, something that they themselves can't mentally measure themselves. So they're like, I've never done this, so I don't know. I have nothing to compare. It's still beneficial. We're just doing speed work, the same movement. We're just changing how we approach it, right? The intensity that we're using. And so that mentally will help them, is what at least I have found to help quite a bit. And then as we revisit that, I'll probably do a couple weeks or few weeks or block on something that looks a little bit different. Again, a little bit more speed work, dynamic effort. And then we resume back to either the repetition effort or max effort. And then they will see progress again. And they're like, oh, so just switching up the stimulus sometimes, it's done wonders for me and my clients for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Do you program a lot with kind of a conjugated like template then, I'm assuming? It looks like from some of your stuff I've seen.
Yeah.
But again, that could be just me doing an oversimplification of your stuff.
Yeah, so definitely I am pretty versed in programming. I've spent, I think, the majority of my career, at least the last decade, really diving into programming styles and stuff like triphasic, conjugate, linear, block periodization. Like I've looked at it all, and I really love programming, right? It's like this fun little puzzle, especially when you can get really custom to people and you can clean up their movements, their pain too, and then get them to progress and get them to their goals. I think it's awesome. For myself, I definitely conjugate. I think it's really fun. There's a lot of variety that goes in. It just feels good to do. It's something I've really enjoyed. Generally for my clients, most of them, because it's Gen Pop. I know I'm a competitive strength athlete and people think that all I do is program for power lifters and strongman athletes, and my clients 90% are Gen Pop, right? So yes, I have some of those people that I do program for competition, but generally speaking, I don't. So for my clients, it's going to look a little bit different. I do, depending on them. So you think that most of the people that come to us are probably training with us twice a week on average, typically. And some of them will do things on their own, but not all of them.
Yeah.
It sounds like most of them don't really like it. That's why they come to us, because
that's why they pay.
Exactly. So while I personally like to do like a 4 or 5 day week split on strength, and I throw in a couple days of conditioning for myself, with clients, it's full body, right? And it's more like linear periodization. I'm trying to like slowly just progress them. It's the same movements for longer periods of time because of skill acquisition, and depending on their training age, needs analysis, I can go through all of that stuff, but really depending on that person, it's really going to be the slow going kind of skill acquisition, linear periodization that I typically focus on with the majority of my clients. And again, some that do train consistently in the gym with 4 days a week, I will do an upper lower split. So it will be, a little bit more max effort based on upper and lower, and then dynamic effort on upper and lower as well. So they get a little bit more speed work in there and then some heavier loads.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you find a pretty good transfer with dynamic effort? I don't know. I've played around with it, and for myself, for whatever reason, and again, I could be doing it completely wrong for all I know too, and I haven't done it lately.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It was a weird thing where it felt great. Oh, this is great, but I didn't really, at least for me, I probably did for around 6 months. Like, I didn't notice any better progression with it. So
Sure.
again, but I know other people who have seen huge progress with it. So I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just curious what you've seen.
Sometimes even with my programming, I will have to make a little bit of a change. So although I like those splits and conjugate style, I will take a break from that and do linear periodization for 6 months and then go back to conjugate sometimes and do something like that. And that's, again, it will change. But when it comes to strength, so this is where with some of my clients and myself too, those that are always under the assumption that more is better, or we got to push, right? Always balls to the wall, heavy all the time. You're going to hit a wall at some point. You're going to all that wear and tear, that mileage that you're putting on the body. If it's every session is just grinding out and going as hard and as heavy as you can with the dynamic effort, specifically when you're talking about strength. And again, I'm a big strength coach. It's not just about moving heavy weights, but it's about moving weights very fast. So as a competitive strength athlete, if I were to always be lifting heavy in all my sessions, I'm grinding out, I will eventually get to a point to where I can't move through a certain movement, like a deadlift. I might have my sticking points at a weight that I shouldn't be seeing those sticking points at. But if I add in dynamic effort and move very fast and very explosively, that's going to help transfer over into my max effort lifts to where I can actually move those loads faster and lock them out and finish the lift. Whereas if I don't do the speed work, then I've run into a lot more grindier of movements, and then my body just is crankier that way. So for that, for strength alone, yeah, moving fast, moving the loads fast definitely transfers over to getting stronger. And I also like it for some like GPP components too, because in dynamic effort, for example, let's say I'm doing my squats, I'm doing 12 sets of 3 reps at 40%. Maybe I have some chains on there as well. So that's fairly lightweight. There's accommodated resistance on it, but I'm going to hit a lot of volume on there, 10 or 12 sets of 3 reps, but only 20 to 30 second rest in between. So it's you rack it, you get done, you're sweating the whole time. So you get some cardiovascular effects in there too, GPP effects, and you're moving really fast. Plus you get done with your workout a lot quicker than max effort days. So it's nice.
Yeah, I always felt, at least on the deadlift, I always felt really good after it. And the weird thing I noticed was my max didn't go up much. My speed sub max was much faster.
Yeah.
And I remember doing the testing day thinking, oh, I just smoked that way. And that is usually a grinder. Like I'm good for, you start getting in your head, like all these fictitious numbers. And my max was like right around the same. So whatever reason, when I hit my max, it was just like, but again, who knows?
Yeah, I found the benefits in that too on more repetition effort or sub-max days.
Sub-max stuff was way better.
Yeah,
way better.
No, big time. True max effort, they're going to be grinders anyway.
Yeah.
If you're really hitting a true max, it's not going to look good. It's probably not going to feel the best, but you can set your body up a little bit better by providing it with some of these other elements like speed work in there and power work.
Do you find most people trying to do a true dynamic effort go too heavy?
100%. Yes.
That's what I've noticed. And again, I don't use it a ton, but that's just what I've observed. And I know I made that mistake early on because I was like, oh, and then I remember reading some from Louis or somebody else and looking at, again, some of their top lifters and what they were actually doing for dynamic effort. And I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about power too, and that's like the whole point of dynamic effort is working on power. You're looking at 30 to 80%, right? Where you should be working down in the 30, 40%, especially if you're using accommodated resistance. But what people will do is what I see is like 70, 80% also with accommodated resistance. So that's just significant.
This is a different thing
right there. You're not going to move that weight that fast. No. So when I go up in my dynamic effort, if I'm upward to 60, 70%, I drop the accommodated resistance. It's like, I don't need that extra load because I'm still trying to move fast at heavier loads now, but not too heavy to where it's actually a sub-max work or max effort, which often I will see that with people's dynamic effort is that they go way too heavy and they're grinding it out and it's not moving very well. And I've even seen people fail at dynamic efforts.
Oh, geez.
That is not dynamic effort. If you're failing a lift at doing true dynamic work, that's not how you do it. Yeah, there's right ways and wrong ways to do it, but if you do it right, I think there's a lot of benefits and transference for it for sure.
Yeah. You used a lot of accommodating resistance, and the sub question is, have you ever played with like flywheels or other methods to get, I guess it's just a different curve, but to me it feels almost more like accommodating resistance. So I tend to lump them together, even though I'm sure purists will hate me for that.
I haven't myself used much on a flywheel, but I do use a lot of band and chain for work. I do bands a little bit more. Just for the gym environment, people are very sensitive to sounds. So you're clanging and banging on those chains and people just mean mug you and glare at you. Quiet. And you're like, I'm in a gym training. But also with the drag weight of chains, you step back, if it's squat or whatever it may be, and the chains can throw you off and torque your body in positions that might not feel too good and whatnot. Although there's a lot of benefit to chains. And again, I use them. But bands are nice because you can explode through it a little bit more and adjust the weight, single banded, double banded. So you can make it a little bit more or a little bit less. But I also feel like you're a little bit more stable with the band, depending on how you set it up, rather than the chains, again, dragging one out too far and one's behind and stuff like that. But I do enjoy using accommodated resistance for sure. Yeah. Have you used much of the flywheel yourself?
Yeah, I picked one up coming up on 2 years ago. And I looked at it for quite a while. And the main reason I got it is not that I'm getting that old. As the time of this recording, I'll be 49 in a couple of days. But I also realized that I don't do a lot of speed work. And I know that speed's going to drop off, power is going to drop off as I get older.
Mhm.
And then also I do a lot of kiteboarding. So if you crash, it's not going to be usually a slow crash. It's going to be somewhat of a violent opposition of some body part going somewhere else. So I'm like, I should probably do more speed work. But then I'm like, well, what would I do? Yeah, I could add some little plyometrics or whatever. And what I liked about the flywheel is that it's very hard to go slow, because if people have never used it, you've got this flywheel that spins. So when you do the concentric, the wheel's spinning up, and then the eccentric, the wheel reverses, and it's literally, if you're just doing a simple bicep curl, right? So on the way up, you're trying to move it as fast as you can, but the wheel is turning. So you have this like inertia you're moving against. And then when you get to the top, it's literally ripping you like back down. So it's this odd thing where you can move as fast as you can, almost like if you have really heavy chains or bands,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't move that fast. But then you've got that eccentric component to it also. So I found I really liked it. I use it mostly for accessory stuff. And before snowboard season too, like just doing split stance stuff on a K box is just absolutely murderous, or Zercher squats on it for your legs. And just doing even bicep curls or anything on it, there's something that my heart rate will always spike super high. And I don't know if it's a constriction somewhere else, or I'm just physically doing more work or what. But yeah, overall, I really do like it.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to find one and play around with it a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's even sites where you might be able to try to make one at home. They're not super complicated, really, but yeah. For accommodating resistance, like any recommendations to know how much to use? I've seen stuff from, like you were saying, single bands, double bands. I've seen sometimes more weight in chain than bar weight. And it just seems like everyone is all across the board on it.
Yeah, I usually stick around about 10% is usually
Okay.
the number that I go with. I always suggest to people to always start with the bar and the accommodated resistance. Put that on first. I'll see a lot of mistakes where people will load up weights and then do some sets, or just load up and then put bands on or chains on or whatever it may be. And that can be quite a surprise and shock to the system, especially if you're new to it and you aren't familiar with how that weight feels or how aggressively it's going to try to pull
Oh,
you
yeah,
down.
yeah.
So like especially bands, and I've seen people get injured,
Oof.
Tear rotator cuffs, pop their pecs, do weird stuff on benches or something, because they think that even just with the bar and a band, they're like, oh, it's just the bar. No, you got a band on there. And they unrack or something like that.
Whoosh. Yeah.
So you got to be very mindful. If you're new to it, I would always start with a single band if you're doing bands rather than a double band. And there's different resistance on it. So I will also see people do the really thick, like monster bands, like the thick purple or green, black. But you want the minis. The micro minis and the mini bands are going to be ideal for accommodated resistance. So the little orange ones, Elite FTS has great bands that you can get, and then the red ones too. So I always tell people start off single and start off with the micro mini, so the orange. Get used to that, and that'll typically feel very light in resistance for people. So it's okay. Now maybe we can try to double the orange band up, and then once you get through a full series of dynamic effort or max effort, whatever it may be, then maybe progress to the red band. But always start off with putting the accommodated resistance on first, rather than straight weight on and then adding the accommodated resistance, because it's a little bit safer, or a lot safer, and then you can adjust that weight. But yeah, about 10% typically seems about pretty solid go-to for it. Yeah.
And I would assume if you're using chains like on a squat, you would set up the chains with a smaller chain. So at the bottom, most of the chain is sitting on the floor then to try to unload it as much as possible.
100%. Yes. So again, yeah, people will float the weights like chains. You don't want them to float. You need to have them be able to offload completely on the ground at that bottom range of the squat, bench, deadlift, whatever it may be. But yeah, so there's some kind of anchor down there, because then if it's floating, it's just more like chaos work, and it's going to have a different stimulus, different effect, but also could be a lot riskier too if they're floating and swinging in space like a pendulum. So always have a few links down, even at the top range of whatever it may be, standing in a squat, locked out in a bench press, that there are a few links still down on the ground to anchor it and to stabilize it a little bit more. Yeah.
And then any tips for setting it up on a deadlift? I've seen people set it up on the ends, which I always find horrible because it always goes under the weight and it's a disaster. And just sticking it on the middle and cramming my feet under it seems to work way better.
Yeah, the deadlift can be very special when it comes to accommodated resistance or using chains, because I run into that a lot too. Yeah, you're rolling over the chains with bumper plates and it throws you off and it twists you, and then you can get injured, and that's the last thing we want is injury. So you could set up, they have actual those little, oh my gosh, little rod things that you can stick onto a bar where you can hook the chain on the end of it. So there's specific things for it. So you could do it that way. If you are a sumo deadlifter, piling the chains in the middle would work. So it's gonna not hit the feet, you won't step on it, and the bar's not gonna roll on it. Now that could be a little special depending on your gender too. So if it's a big pile of chains and you're going up really aggressively, and you're a man, so just be mindful of all that. So yeah, you could also drape it. What I typically do, because I'm a conventional lifter, so narrow stance, I will put it right outside of my shins. So my feet are planted. I know it's not going to roll over the bar. It's not on the end. So I just put it as close to my body as I can to avoid some of that, or actually use the equipment to attach it to. Yeah.
Yeah. And for guys, if you're putting chains in the middle, Elite FTS makes these, I forgot the name of it, but it's a piece of nylon with 2 rings on the end.
Yeah.
And you put it over the bar and then you put the chain on underneath that. The first time I saw that, I was like, oh, that's genius.
Yeah. Something simple, but very effective.
Yeah, that works good. Do you do any accommodating resistance with kind of non-competitive clients?
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
If they built the skill acquisition in their movement patterns, and we need some kind of progression, or they're just bored and have that personality of like, I need variety, I like cool stuff, I want to do, all the stuff, then yeah, I will absolutely do it. With clients though, I typically don't load as much weight on it or accommodated resistance for them. Again, depending on their training age. If I've been working with someone for a decade, which I have people that I've worked with for 12 plus years.
Nice.
They've been with me for all this time, and I know their skill level. I know where they're at strength wise, and I'm not afraid that they're going to be sloppy or unfocused under it, because that's really what it comes down to. A lot of people are, they come in because they want to socialize and chat, blah, blah, blah. And you get underneath the bar talking to me, blah, 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 blah.
I've seen that.
I see it all the time, and I'll have to tell, I'm like, hey, I need you to stop talking if you're going to do this, or rack the bar and we can converse.
Yeah.
You're going to not talk so we can do this. That's one of the biggest mistakes I see, people talking under load. Like you're just asking for injury that way. So yeah, if I trust in their abilities, then yes, I will absolutely use accommodated resistance with certain clients for sure. Now, not everyone needs it. Is it valuable for everyone? No, it could be riskier for some people, depending on risk versus reward. If it's risky, or I have even a slightest little fear that it might be too risky, I'm not going to do it, because it's absolutely not worth it. But again, if they're interested in it and they just need something a little bit different, a little bit new stimulus, or they're just like the variety of it, then yeah, we'll go for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, I find for variety, it works really well. And sometimes for taller lifters, just that they've got such, and maybe it's just me because I've got ungodly long femurs, like squatting and even deadlifting sometimes is weird. And just that different stimulus of feeling like you can use a heavier load, and sometimes, especially on squats, it just feels like it matches better. It's almost like, I don't do a ton of machine training per se, but when you find like a nice machine that just seems to match and it feels good, a lot of times I find when you get it set up, it just feels a little bit better. More difficult, but not bad, but in it feels like it's doing what it's supposed to be doing more.
What I like about it too with clients is, you have the people that just always want to lift heavy, right? Oh, I just want to go, I just had a bad day, I'm stressed out, I just want to lift some weights. It's a safer way to do it in some regard, where you don't have to do true straight weight, where it might really just freaking bury them in a hole. That they could feel that load for a lot of that lift, but it offloads them, so where it's not really going to put as much stress and demand on their body as if it was just straight weight the whole way through. So it allows for a little bit more recovery for some people too, and allows them to really get after it in a way that's not as stressful on the body. So
Yeah. I also have this little pet theory that for clients who tend to maybe sometimes not want to pay attention, especially on a squat where they're unracking it and they have all that load at the top, like it's a thing of, okay, now you better pay attention. Where if it's straight weight and especially it's sub max and you're at the strongest biomechanical position, it feels lighter. And I just think they don't respect the weight enough. But if they unrack it, and obviously they're experienced, they've done this before, and they feel the weight of the chain as they're stepping back, it's more of a thing of, oh, time to pay attention now.
exactly. Yes. It'll rock them a little bit to where they're like, "Ooh, I got to get tight now," because I'm feeling that. So it almost forces that too, which is nice because creating tension in the body is also a skill that a lot of people struggle with that skill. And it does take practice. It takes time to actually understand it and feel it. But like you get that kind of load and they're like, "Ooh," when they get load, people will typically tense up. So it teaches in some regard to create tension and to stabilize and to really focus, because that's where a lot of people go wrong is they don't focus enough on what they're doing and they're going to get injured.
Yeah. And I find almost all guys just like chains. It just looks cool.
It does. It sounds cool. It looks cool. You look like a badass and nice. So yeah, for some people that just like the sound and get after it, whatever, I might have 65 pounds on the bar on a deadlift for someone. I'm like, let's throw chains on there.
Yeah.
Just because they just want to feel that, and it just makes them feel really tough. And yeah, let's do it. Some people just need that. They come in there just to let loose and release that tension, and we're going to get after it and do that.
Have you found chains tend to work pretty good for a deadlift? I've generally had sort of mixed results, but I guess that really depends on where they're missing their deadlift too, obviously.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of carryover with that. And my favorite way to use chains, honestly, on deadlift, what I have found to be pretty good carryover is chain releasing deadlifts. So what I will do with some clients, and especially with my training partner, we will put on chains and we'll hook on leader chains to it.
Mm-hmm.
So rep 1 will be a heavier rep, and then we'll rip it off and explode through rep 2.
Oh, nice. I like that.
Actually get really heavy load, like, oh crap, that was a lot of weight, but I did it. You take it back down, set yourself again, get tight. Your training partner rips off those chains, and then you just blast that second rep. So trains both that speed and then also strength at the same time. So I
like that.
Chains. Yeah. Totally try that. Like it really does feel good because you get one heavy rep in and then you take that same weight and you're just blasting through it. So I found a lot of carryover with that method for sure.
Yeah, I did that for a while on my own. I would warm up and then I go up to my max weight and then I would add chains. And then even if I was doing straight weight for the rest of it, it's almost like a PAP where you get a little bit heavier load at the top. And then, but I like the idea of that instant on the same rep of changing it. That's cool.
Yeah. No, I really enjoy that. Yeah.
Nice. What are some of your other favorite methods? I know you mentioned triphasic, which obviously I'm biased to because I'm good friends with Cal, but I'm just curious what else you've found that's been useful.
Well, in terms of methods that I throw into like programming, I do a lot of, depending on, again, the goal. So things are going to be a little bit different. If I'm focusing on a hypertrophy phase or block or program for someone, I might do methods like the rest pause method. Or double rest pause to get a little bit of volume, because again, the goal of hypertrophy is a little bit more volume in there, get size. So rest pause is, for example, a push-up rest pause, which I will do myself. I program for clients where you're basically going to do as many reps as possible as you can on whatever exercise. So like push-ups, do as many as you can. Then you're going to take a short rest, about 20 seconds, and then do another set of as many as you can. Another 20-second rest, and then your third and final set of as many as you can. So you're really working a failure, like really true failure and fatigue doing that. But it's a nice way to get that pump feeling in and get the volume in, and to really create that environment for hypertrophic stimulus and effect. So rest pause is a really fun method to do. I will do that even on arms, biceps, triceps, whatever it may be. So nice way to get volume in a very short amount of time.
Would you do multiple sets for that, or would you do that as just like a final set, or how would you fit it in?
So you could do either. So like I might use it as a finisher, one rest pause or a double rest pause where they're doing that with push-ups, something like that. But I've also done it on, let's say, bench press, where I might do 3 rest pauses. Let me just throw out a number. We'll say 155 pounds on the bench. I do as many reps as I can, rack it, 20-second rest. Same thing, as many as I can, rack it, 20-second rest, a third set at that. And then I'll take a 2-minute rest and I will drop it to 135 and I'll do the same thing. So yeah, if I'm really trying to build and some size and get a lot of good volume in and get a pump feeling in there, then yes, absolutely. I will throw that in for a couple sets like that or do it as a drop set. So drop sets, again, another method that I'll throw in is drop set. So you can throw in multiple methods and run program and get really creative. It's fun because there's science behind coaching, but there's also art behind coaching too. So you can get really creative. There's not one way to do any program. There's some things that you should consider and some things that are not ideal or optimal, but you can get really creative with programming. So it's fun to throw in different methods and try them out. Really considering where you put those in your program is important, because I probably wouldn't start with that. I wouldn't start with just, hey, let's fry you out like on double rest pause push-ups, and then we're going to go do a max effort bench, right? That just doesn't really match. Unless the goal was to create that pre-fatigue before you go into your max effort to avoid a true max effort, right? So you can do something like that. But I also like to use cluster sets as a method for strength. So where you're working at maybe, let's say 90%, which how many reps do you think you can get at 90% right now of your deadlift?
Oh, I haven't tested that in a while, but I'd say it's probably pretty low. I would be betting
a couple reps, maybe
3-ish, 4-ish, somewhere around there. Like probably be my guess. Yeah. I know on my axle lift, I could tell you what that is. That would be so 285. So 599. So I hit about 3 to 4 reps if I'm about 90%. But sometimes that's a double or a single. It just depends on the day. But
90% typically people are at probably anywhere 2 to 4 reps, right? Yeah. But now if you do a cluster set of that, where it's like that rest pause, but you're not doing volume work or more endurance based. So cluster sets are great for strength building. You're working at 90% of your deadlift, and maybe you're doing 3 cluster sets of 2. So I might hit a double at 90% and take 30 to 45 seconds, just shake it off, reset myself, hit another double, again, 30 to 45 seconds, maybe upward to a minute, depending on how that load felt, and then another double. So you're then getting 6 reps at 90% rather than the 2 or 3 or 4 reps. So you're actually getting a little bit more work in, more intensity, more volume in overall, rather than doing a straight 6 reps that you likely would not be able to achieve. So you can achieve more with cluster sets. So I really enjoy using cluster sets, especially as I'm peaking for a competition. I would definitely use cluster sets in there. Yeah. So lots of methods out there that you can do to really enhance programming or enhance physique or strength gains or whatever your goal may be. Yeah. Those are some.
Yeah. One of the ones I've used with, let's say, intermediate to advanced clients is a similar cluster set where I'll have them go pretty heavy, but I want the weight should still move relatively fast. So it's not really dynamic effort. It's definitely heavy. And I'll tell them, okay, just do a single, stand up, let go of the bar, set up again, go again, do another single. Yeah. Let go of the bar, stand up, shake it out, go again, do a third single. Because I know that they'll probably get 3 reps there instead of 2 reps, especially if I know their setup is weak and they're weaker off of the floor. Yeah. So now I have more kind of specific practice that I snuck in without them really knowing what I was doing.
Exactly. And actually using that, whereas you might see someone that does like a touch and go or repetition, you know, it's kind of going, and then it gets sloppier. And then just like they get fatigued or whatever, and it just doesn't look as good. But resetting and letting them do that first rep every time to generate that kind of power, create that kind of tension too. It is actually pretty optimal to do that, to have people just reset, hit a rep, reset it, get tight again, and hit another clean rep rather than breaking down over multiple reps.
Yeah, especially if I'm looking at their testing and they do a true max and then they're at 90% and they hit 6 to 8 reps. It's like, okay, send me a video. I can almost guarantee, oh, you're a CrossFitter? Okay, I can guarantee exactly what I'm going to see. And the first rep looks hard. You're going, oh my God, are they even going to get this? And then it's this weird bouncy deadlift catch thing that makes me want to throw battery acid in my eyes.
Yeah. It just makes you cringe a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. And I get it. If you're doing CrossFit, okay, you could argue that is probably sport specific for some of that. But then it's like, hey, lots of cluster sets in your feet. And I always get mad because they're like, but my weight is so much Laura, I should be lifting more than this. I did an 8-rep max with whatever. I'm like, but you missed the part where you're weakest. So now you can't hide from it when you're starting from the ground each time too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you've done this too. I don't know if it was a Poliquin or who I stole it from, but they used to call them like mechanical drop sets, where you do an exercise in like
Yes.
the easier version of it, and then you don't really do a whole lot of rest, but you just change to hand position or leg position or whatever to another version that's actually easier. So you start with the hard version, and then you do the easier version next because you have more fatigue, and that feels a lot harder too. That's been fun to do a fair amount of those too.
I love that action method. I use that a lot on lateral shoulder raises. Like I'll sit and do a dead stop on a bench,
Ooh.
as I can do there, and then immediately stand up and do strict. And then the third layer would be a little bit of body English.
Oh, nice. I like that.
A lot of medial delt in there. So yeah, I love mechanical drop sets. I'll do it same with the hex bar, trap bar deadlifts. Same thing. I might go low handle on it at a deficit. Get rid of the plate there or whatever I'm standing on, hit it again, and then flip the handles over and do high handles, something like that. So you get more volume in deadlift variation. So yeah, mechanical drop sets are beautiful. Love them.
I like that. Any other good ones? Those are great.
Oh yeah, I probably do the same thing. You could do that with push-ups too. I love doing it with push-ups with people too. We might be at a incline. I'll usually stick 2 benches side by side, so there's a place for their chest to go. So we're doing a deficit incline push up, lower the bench, and then get them eventually down to the ground, something like that. So yeah, you can do that with a lot of movements, but yeah, I mean, bicep curls, same thing, right?
Yep.
Like who doesn't love a solid bicep pump from different angles? Spider curls and do a standing hammer curl. Maybe you're doing Zotman curls with it and just doing different angles at that. Yeah. But
yeah, the other one with the push-ups I've done is using the bar on the Smith machine because it's so fast to change it. So you can start on the floor and then you can just bring the bar up to 2 or 3 different levels because all you gotta do is just grab it and then you do push-ups to the bar.
See, and that's exactly what that is. That machine is beautiful for.
Yeah, it works good for something.
I love it. Yes.
Do you know the history of the Smith machine? This is something I've had on my list forever to research, and I just haven't done it yet.
No.
Like, who thought of this thing?
I don't
Was his name
know.
really Smith? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. Now we're going to have to do some research and find out.
I know. Now it's bugging me again. I'll probably have to definitely look it up this time.
Yeah, someone actually asked me recently to do a tutorial video on how to use the Smith machine. So now I'm going to have to do some research too. I know how to use it, but do I use it that much? No, for push-ups I do. Yeah.
Yeah. If someone wants to learn better programming, what would your advice be?
They want to learn how to program better.
Yeah.
Definitely getting some resources, I think, would be awesome. What I did that helped me the most, besides, yes, I have hundreds of books around me right now on programming, science and principles of strength training. I have tons of books. So reader, I like knowledge. I will buy any freaking book. And again, I surround myself with knowledge as much as I can. But aside from books, and again, I can give a list of books, I would hire a coach, honestly. Like even as a coach, I've hired multiple coaches just to learn programming because I knew that their style was different than mine. So when I was getting into conjugate, I hired Matt Winning, for example.
Oh, yeah. Matt's awesome.
Love Matt. He's one of my great friends. Hired him. And also having him as a mentor, learn that way. So hiring coaches is seriously the best way to learn because you can ask questions, especially as a coach, when you have an understanding of things like, cool, I would like to know your why behind this exercise and why you put it here. And any coach that is programmed for you, they're not going to get mad at you asking that. You're being inquisitive. No. You want to learn, right? And they should be willing to educate you and teach you along the way. So hire coaches. I've hired multiple coaches just to learn different styles of programming, linear periodization, block periodization. I just hired multiple coaches until I'm like, sweet, I have a really solid understanding of how they program and of this kind of method or training style. So it's kind of a nice way to do it. Can it get pricey a little bit? Sure, but it's worth it because you're investing in yourself and your knowledge and your education, and you're becoming a better coach because of it. And I'm humble enough to be like, I don't know it all. I've been in it for 20 plus years, and I feel like I know this much. And so there's so much out there. Learn as much as you can from people and build that network and build the mentors and stuff. Yeah, that's basically how I learned the most is by hiring other people and then being able to talk to them and not being afraid of asking questions. So many people are terrified to reach out to people and be like, hey, I have a question on this. How would you do this? Or could you asking questions? And to be fair, there's some people, you got to pay me for that. Anyone wants to reach out to me and ask me a question about programming or jump on a call with me, I will totally do that because I love to talk shop and help people out. Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing too is I've talked about this in the podcast, and I'm sure you'd probably agree, but if you're at a conference, for God's sakes, ask questions to people, because I understand that some people get tons of DMs from crazy people who ask really, my favorite one, which I always laugh, is I have a quick question, and it's 7 paragraphs, and you're like,
yeah,
I want to try to help this poor person, but I don't even know what they said. I don't know anything.
Oh, totally.
But if you're at a conference, I always think that I know all these people paid to be there, which is not an easy thing. They took time off. A lot of times they had to drive. They had to pay for the conference. So I know they're already committed. So it's very easy for me to answer questions at a conference because I know they're already vested in the thing. And then you can ask questions back. You can be like, oh, what about this? Or what about that? Sometimes I have a short question, it's 7 paragraphs, and you don't know where to start. Those get a little bit interesting at times. So I would tell people like, yeah, definitely ask questions for sure. And if you're at a conference, by all means, ask questions. Because I remember, God, years ago, this is probably 16 years ago, maybe, I went to a conference and Dan John was there. And Dan was like, hey, we're going to be at the bar later if anyone wants to come hang out. And I was like, oh, I get to hang out at the bar with Dan John. This is so crazy. And so I like get there, like I'm all super early. There was like 8 of us out of a conference of 120 people. And I'm looking around and I'm thinking, you don't even have to drink. Like you can just come hang out. And it was weird to me that there wasn't more people there. And again, maybe it was just that conference. Maybe it was bad timing. Who knows? But I think a lot of times people think, oh, I can't do that. I can't. And like the person is there. Like most of the time, they're more than willing to help answer questions, especially if they're hanging around or whatever. And just ask anyway.
It is interesting at these conferences that the fear of going up to someone and talking to them and asking them a question. It's like, if you're there and you're traveling, you're spending all that money and willing to invest yourself and dedicate your time to that, go all in. All in. Don't be afraid to go up to people and it's not just even about the speakers, right? Like, yes,
there's tons of attendants that are great.
But like all the other attendees, how much knowledge is in that room that's not just the speakers presenting?
Totally.
Make friends, go out to lunch with people. That's what I do. Every conference, I meet tons of new people because that's part of my goal of going there is yes, to learn, to be a part of it, be present, be focused, but also to network and build relationships. And that's, again, and you will have resources too, lots of resources. People you can reach out to. Hey, it was great to talk to you at the conference. I have a couple of questions. Do you have time to jump on a call with me? More people are willing to do that. And they're more than happy to do that, especially when you feel like you're valuable and you can be a resource to someone and help them out. Yeah, absolutely. People want to do that. Oh
yeah, totally. And a lot of times, like some of the best conversations you have are, like you said, maybe not even with the presenters, or probably not even in the talk, or in the hallways, or at lunch, or at the bar after. And I don't know why I'm always surprised by this, but even I was speaking at ISSN, and so went to the president's dinner the night before, and we're just hanging out. Ended up having an hour and a half chat with 2 of the top premier protein researchers in the world. And they're both like on their phones, like trying to pull up studies about things. And I got to just ask them questions. And it was funny. One of the guys, he was just like, oh yeah, I know you. And I said, oh yeah, I've been at a bunch of conferences and stuff. He said, no, you were the only guy who came to my poster 9 years ago when I first started and asked me questions about it. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh, you're my friend. I'm like, oh, cool. I was like, I don't remember doing that, but I guess it was good.
People remember. And that's the thing too. There's so many missed opportunities when you don't speak up, or opportunities that could come about. So I was back a few years ago, PPSC, Dr. John Russin, right? So I would attend his, stick around, talk shop with him, and build that relationship and build that rapport. I'm a master instructor for the PPSC course, and I present tons, like all over the country. I go and present his courses because I built that relationship. I spoke up. I asked a lot of questions during his very first presentation that he's ever done. Was at Bigger Ground.
Luca.
So like doing stuff like that, again, doors can open by you speaking up and being present and asking questions and being involved and engaged with people. Like opportunities can really come about doing that. So don't miss out on an opportunity and not speak up.
Yeah, especially if you're a presenter, there's nothing worse than, do you have any questions? And no one asked a single question, and you've budgeted time to do it. And then when you're done, everybody seemed to have a question. And again, I don't care. I don't mind answering their questions, but I bet there's more than enough people in the room who wanted to hear your question.
Right.
So just ask the question. And so like everyone can learn then.
Well, and that's the thing. You know that if you have a question, there's likely someone else in the room or multiple people that have the same or similar question, and they would really benefit from you asking it. So someone needs to chime in and speak up.
Yeah. Any good book recommendations for programming? You mentioned there's a lot of books you like, and I always feel like I struggle with this question because I feel like it's almost like a very niche question. Like I can rattle off a whole bunch of programming books, but I always feel stuck without asking them like 20 more questions.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I would say Science and Practice of Training. That is, oh my gosh, how do you say his name? Zatsiorsky?
Oh yeah, that's yours.
Like I always say that weird. Yeah, that's a good one. Super
Yeah.
Training is a decent book too.
Yep.
Triphasic.
Yeah, thank you.
Great book.
Good call. Good call.
Well, where am I? Let's see. Brad Schoenfeld's book. That's what I'm looking at right now. Science and Development of Hypertrophy.
Yep.
That's a good one. Gosh, what else is there? There's lots. Joel Jameson, his Ultimate
MMA
Conditioning book.
Yeah, that one's great.
Yeah, that's a great one for conditioning. Again, conditioning is a big part of programming that people miss out on. Was it Built to Hilt, Josh Bryant?
Oh, I haven't read that one. Okay.
Yeah, that one's good. Yeah, and those are, I think, pretty solid for sure. I really did like Triphasic. I thought that was
very nice.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I might like the second one. I just turned in a rough copy of it, so I'm helping Kyle with it. So hopefully it'll be out soon.
I'm super excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all new stuff too. So it's all new stuff. So
do you have any favorite programming books?
I always feel like the Zatsiorsky one and Super Training are like classics, but I have this thing where I don't think anyone understands anything that's ever been read in either one of those books. I think it's like one of those things where they're amazing, and I love Mel Siff. Like I never got to meet him, but at the same point, they're so dense.
So dense.
I wish someone would have told me years ago that if you read Super Training, just start with one chapter and don't expect you're going to understand everything. Because I beat the crap out of myself trying to understand that book for years.
Me too. I take bits and pieces. I'm like, okay, I understand this and that and that. It's a great book. It's phenomenal. But
the material is awesome.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So there's just so much in that. But yeah, if you can sit through that and get through it and pick some solid nuggets out, then you're good.
Yeah. The other one I find too, which is a little bit dated, is Practical Programming by Dr. Lon Kilgore.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really nice summary of different methods. And it wasn't, even now I recommend that as just, if you want just general idea of programming, that's still my go-to. It's not super in-depth in any one particular thing, but I thought it gave a really nice kind of overview and background and history and stuff too.
I also like Chad Wesley Smith's and Mike Israel's book.
I heard that was good.
Yeah, Science and Principles of Strength Training. That's a good one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Two final questions here. Any other books or media or anything that you're into right now that you would recommend to other people?
I would say, well, I did really enjoy Ignite the Fire, John Goodman's book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty good one. Conscious Coaching.
Yeah, I haven't read that one yet, but I'm presenting with him this fall, so I'm excited to chat with him.
Always a good one. I know this is one that gets thrown around a lot, but Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Okay, classic.
Solid book choice. Yeah, I always revisit that one for sure. I really enjoyed Can't Hurt Me. What is that?
David Goggins?
Yeah. So
he's a crazy man.
I really enjoy that kind of stuff. And classic too, Simon Sinek's Why, or Know Your Why. That's also a solid book to read too. Yeah, I'm always reading books. Again, I'm not trying to look around like I got all my books. Relentless, Tim Grover was good. And I could keep on reading out my books, but I will spare you of doing that.
Oh, nice.
If anyone wants book recommendations, feel free to reach out because I can do mindset books, I can do training books, whatever. I got lots,
Awesome.
Joe DeFranco's podcast, I really enjoy listening to that. Obviously, your podcast, I follow
thank
that
you.
regularly. Same with Vigor Life. Luca, host of ours, podcast is really great. So yeah, some of those things I think, solid.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all your time. And where can people find you? I feel like you're everywhere now. You're teaching for John, you're on TMAG, you've got all your great stuff on Instagram.
Yeah, you can find me Instagram at IronWolf03. I have been writing for T Nation now for a handful of months. So I have about 6 or 7 articles up there now, and I still have a lot in the works. You can also see some of my articles. I have a few on muscle and fitness that I helped Shane McLean write.
Yeah,
so
Shane's awesome.
Shane is great. Yes. You can find me at idealstrength.com. If you're interested in programming, I have a programming app available on there with 20 plus programs of all endurance, strength, hypertrophy, sport specific, lots of programs. So if you want to learn programming from
there you go.
Hey, jump on that app. It's really cheap. It's $40 a month. And there's, again, 20 plus programs you can work through. So that's nice. And then you can find me on Facebook too at Tasha Wolf Whelan.
Awesome. And if someone wanted to train with you in person, where would that information be?
If you want to train in person, I am in Washington, just outside of Seattle in Bellevue, Washington. So if you're in the area, I'm happy to.
Beautiful area.
Yeah, it's a great area. Yeah. Beautiful. We're a little bit gloomy today, but it's Seattle, so it makes sense even in August. But yeah, great area. Washington's awesome. If you want to relocate to Washington and train with me, awesome. Let's go for it.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for all your stuff. I really appreciate it. And thank you for sharing so much about programming and let me pick your brain about all my crazy questions too.
Yeah, no, I love it. I appreciate your time and thank you for having me on. It was great. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. See you later. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Huge thanks to Tasha for being on the podcast again. It was great to finally meet her this past year in person, which was awesome. Make sure to check out all of her great stuff, especially on Instagram, her writing over at T Nation, and many other locations she's done writing and videos for. A huge thanks to her for giving up her time to be on the podcast to share everything with you. Also want to let you know the Flex Diet certification will open again in January 2024. I've got a couple things that are moving around, so I don't know the exact date yet. Most likely probably around the middle of January. So if you're looking for the complete solution for nutrition and recovery for both yourself or for high-level athletes or any clients that you teach, it is actually designed for everything from general population all the way up to high-level athletes. Surprisingly, a lot of high-level athletes have horrible nutrition. So many times they don't need anything super advanced, like you can get to that point, but a lot of times they just need good, solid information in order to start. So in the Flex Diet Cert, cover everything from protein, fats, carbohydrates, fasting, NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, such as walking, exercise, sleep, and much, much more. You can find out all about it either by going to flexdiet.com or you can go to my newsletter, which you can hop on at miketnelson.com/podcast. Scroll down and be able to get on the newsletter for free. That's where I'll have all the announcements as soon as I get the exact dates figured out. Again, right now we're looking at probably mid-January 2024. Flex Diet Cert, as of now, only opens twice a year for 1 week. So go check that out. Huge thanks for listening to the podcast. As always, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if you have time, hit the little subscribe button. And then if you can leave us whatever stars are appropriate or even a short review, that is a huge help to us with the little algorithms so that we can get this distributed to more people. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. Talk to all of you next week.
You suppose they have any life on other planets?
What do you care? You don't have any life on this one.
This podcast is for informational purposes only. The podcast is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. You should not use the information on the podcast for diagnosing or treating a health problem or disease or prescribing any medication or other treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider before taking any medication or nutritional supplement, and with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this or any other podcast. Reliance on the podcast is solely at your own risk. Information provided on the podcast does not create a doctor-patient relationship between you and any of the health professionals affiliated with our podcast. Information and statements regarding dietary supplements are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to therein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.